What's up, guys? So today we're going to do something that I've never actually done before, and that is to finish this curly maple slab. So it's very important to get all of this flaky stuff off of your material anytime you're doing an epoxy pour, because it's just not going to stick to this stuff and then it will crack and fall off. So you have to spend the time and get all the bark out of here and all the dust and things like that. So what you're gonna need is either a flathead screwdriver, or I'm using a chisel, kind of a bunch of chisels here that I have, and then just kind of debarking as much as you could off of this. And then even in here I might grab like a little pick and try to get some of this stuff out here as well, just because that's very important anytime you're doing a deep pour like that.
Now we continue the cleaning process by using a wire brush that we put on our impact and just going over the bark. Then I'm using my belt sander. I do wish in this situation I had a huge planer to sand this through, but unfortunately I don't.
So we're starting our sanding process here, and I'm just gonna go through the grits here. So I'm gonna have a 40 grit sandpaper. That's the first one, and that's like the coarse grit that we're trying to get rid of these saw marks off of it. So you got to really kind of eat at the material itself. Then we're going to step it up to our 80, and then we're going to step it up to our 120. And I'm going to do all of that with the belt sander. And then I do have a nice palm sander that I'm probably going to do 80, 120, 180 in order to finish it off. But there's really no easy way about it. You just kind of, we don't have a big planer to send this through, so we do have to do it manually. But a belt sander, just gotta be careful with it. A belt sander is the way to go with this. And then just have a little blower next to you so that you're not sanding the dust underneath it. You want to make sure the cleaner it is, the more material comes off of it. If you have a bunch of like some of this looser stuff on top of it, then it's kind of gets in the way between you and the actual material that you're trying to sand off.
And if you have made it this far into the video, definitely consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell, because we are learning every single day and we're sharing as we learn. We make a lot of mistakes, but we share those as well.
So I got it down to 120 grit, and that's what the stain is recommending, the finish. So you don't really want to go past that because you'll polish it. This is what it's going to look like once we actually stain it. Oh my gosh, that's so sick. You do want to wet it, because you're kind of picking up some of the little bristles and things like that. And then once you dry it, you're going to hit it again. I do need to get my palm sander out, and then I'm going to hit that with an 80 grit and then 120 grit as well, just to get rid of some of those like smaller little scratches from the belt sander. But that's going to be more of just like the finishing touches here. Look how cool this looks. So our bench is perfectly sanded, and now we have to fill these cracks with our epoxy. And the epoxy that I'm going to be using is this clear coat tabletop epoxy. I did not go with a deep pour epoxy because this crack is not that big, and the difference between this price versus the deep pour price is like 4 times the difference almost. So there is some rules that we have to follow here. It cannot exceed 1 inch when you're pouring it. So for us, when this is a 2-inch piece, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour about maybe 2/3 of it first, let that sit up for 3 to 4 hours. So I'm going to give it like 4 hours, and then I'm going to do another pour, and I'm going to pour it flush. And then these gaps right here, you could just start filling them. So I'm going to pour over it and just kind of work them right into that crack. And then what I also have here is a pigment kind of color bag, and I'm going to add black to it because I want this to just be black, like the gap itself. And that's not what we're going to use for the coat though, because I don't want this to look like a tabletop coat. We're going to use something else for that, and I'll talk about that once we get there. But for now, I'm basically going to be using this in order to make our pour. I have my template strip here that I'm going to use as a little dam on this side, and underneath it, it'll be able to fit over really easily. We're just going to use some hot glue gun or some hot glue, and then be able to close out that gap. All these other ones are internal, so we'll be able to kind of pour over it and then just kind of really work that into it. Once this dries, we're gonna add some bow ties to it, and I think it's gonna give a really nice kind of like finesse look that I'm looking for on this. So let's do it. So now that we poured half of that crack, I'm just kind of spreading some of it right here, and then using a putty knife and then starting to work it into all these cracks right here. And it's kind of like grouting, where you want to make sure you're changing your direction as you're trying to fill that in. And that's how you kind of really squeeze it into that crack, just like that, and then kind of clean it up this way. Look how sick that looks. Just really working it into these cracks here. Don't have to really worry about having it look perfect, because we're going to sand all of this off anyway. This is about halfway in. I love how that looks. I did hit it with a blowtorch once, but you see the bubbles starting to rise again. I'm going to hit it with a blowtorch one more time, and just very gently. You're not trying to fry that piece. So let's just kind of fill the rest of this, and we're going to work on our little fishies. So it's the next day. I did do another pour last night, and we got a little more than halfway there. So I'm gonna do this in smaller pours, because that way it's crystal clear. I'm also noticing that mixing it with a little mixing stick, it's just way cleaner in terms of the bubbles, because with the drill, it does introduce a lot of bubbles, so you end up using the blowtorch a lot. And it's one of those things, if you use the blowtorch a lot, then it gets hot, and then if it gets hot, then it could crack. So we want to make sure that we don't do that. I don't see any cracking, but that's kind of the feedback that I'm getting from the brand itself. So I can already see my kids freaking out, because we have mommy, daddy, the two kids, but we have to add Moose, Raven, and Foxy. Raven is a black German Shepherd, so I sharpied her. Then Moose got a little bit of color, and Foxy is an orange cat. So we're gonna add them in the back right here as well. And there's gonna be like this little, whatever you call this, scene, but let's add it in. So now that our epoxy pour is done, what I'm going to do is grab my belt sander and then strip it all off to get it back down to raw wood. Then we'll just have to polish these areas. And then what we will have left is wood with just the areas right here that have epoxy in it. And then once we stain it, it will be, we should be able to see right through it and then see all of our little fishies and all these veins and things like that. This is the first time we've done it. I think next time we're gonna do it, which we'll have to do our table, our dining room table, we're gonna do a little better job, because definitely learned something here. But let's strip this and see how it looks. So what Catherine is helping me here with is that basically the epoxy side of it, has to be like 100, like 800 grit. Yeah, so that has to be like 800 grit in order to be able to see through it. But the rest of the wood has to be sanded to 120 per stain directions. So we can't just put that on the palm sander and then hit all of it. So basically you have to go by hand here and just clean that up because we want to be able to see through it. Here, can you wipe that with the, yeah. See if you can get that really wet. See, like, I want to be able to see the fish. So we have to polish it up. So hopefully that's going to work. So the next step for us is to cut this to size and then do all the router work that we have to do, which for us involves routering out the channels for those brackets, where on the wall brackets. And then also we're going to have an LED underneath the bench itself. And we're also going to basically run a router through that to recess the LED light into that. So we're gonna do that next. Let's cut this down to size. And this is the part where I'm still learning, because I thought this was going to be the easy part. Just grab my track saw, make my plunge cut, and then just cut it off. But there was something wrong either with the blade or the size of the blade that I was cutting it, where the saw started to burn and the wood itself was, I think, just too dense and too thick. So I switched over to my rear handle saw and it still was struggling. I think it's the saw blade itself just not thick enough. So I think in the future maybe I have to go to my beam saw that has the bigger blade on it. If you guys have any experience on cutting some of these thicker slabs like that, definitely let me know in the comments, because I made my template of the cut that I need to make, and then again I went back to my saw and it was struggling. I had to go back and forth, and in the end we ended up with this like burned cut. I just really wasn't that happy with it, but we had no other choice but just to push through. So I just relied on my sanding to clean everything up, and we made it look good at the end. But let me know in the comments if there's something that I could have done better, because I want to continue to learn and just keep getting better at all of my things that I do. So we got our bench in here and just kind of dry fitting it, because I do have to recess these brackets into the bench itself. So when I put it into the corner here, I have to measure it, but what we're noticing is that this bracket right here is running right through my epoxy pour, especially where I want to put that light. So honestly, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this bracket off, and I'm going to add that bench leg here anyway. This way I'm still having that interrupted, and I can attempt to put that LED light in there. So that's kind of, I think, to recess the brackets themselves, I brought my bench outside, and then I used my router, and then I just used the plunge feature on it, and then I routed out, and I kind of just free-handed this. I think if you do it in small enough rips where it's about a 1/4 inch at a time, you can do it pretty easily. We did about 3 passes so we could recess about 3/4 of an inch, and it worked perfectly. All right, it's time to figure out our LED light for under our bench. I've been thinking about this for quite a long time to figure out how I actually want to do it. I ordered this track from Amazon, and it does come, and it's very important, something that I was making a mistake in the beginning, and I was like, why does my LED light look like crap? It's because I didn't use a diffuser strip, which is these kind of transparent looking, foggy looking covers that will go over the top of your LED light and then give it that nice line glow that you're looking for. Otherwise you see the light bulbs. That's kind of annoying. So this is the front of our bench. What I'm going to do, and then this is my side that's going up against the cabinet. So I have a wire that's sticking out of the cabinet right now, right here. I'm going to router in a tiny with a little router. I'm going to router in a little channel for the wire, the low voltage wire that's going to go to this connection. Then our track is going to go under here all the way to the end right here. And this is the lights that we're going to use. Then I have another connection right here that I'm going to put at the end like that. It's going to end in there. I'm going to run another wire then to this side, because this is that little stream that I have that I want to also light up. I think it's going to look pretty sick. So I'm going to cut a small piece of our track here as well, and then insert it here and recess it with the diffuser facing into the river itself. So when you turn it on, the light's going to turn on, and then the river is going to turn on as well. At least that's the hope. And I am going to router this in and recess it into the wood itself to just to kind of give it that nice finesse look. I've been thinking about this for a while. This is the same process that I used when we did our LED curb downstairs in our bathroom. So it should work, but you know, many things should work, but sometimes they don't. So let's see how it goes. So now we have everything pre-cut. What I'm going to use is this Gorilla mounting tape, which is just a double-sided tape that I'm going to put in here and then on the other side as well. So I got the clear one. This way the light can shine right through it on the epoxy side of it. I'm not screwing it in just because I don't know if it's going to work. If it doesn't work, I want to make sure that I can take it apart and then fix it. So we're going to be using this. The stuff is super strong, so I think it's going to be a-okay. Let's do it. So here's what it all looks like all closed up. So we have our diffuser strip going over our main strip here. And then we have, this is that the little river LED. I'm curious to see how that turns out. We did just duct tape this for now because we might have to take this whole thing apart, so I don't want to overcommit. We're gonna bring this inside and then wire it up. So here I did also cut in the little channel for our wire as well, so that we can kind of hide right into there and then go into here. You want to make sure that you don't switch up because we made a flip. You want to make sure that your positives and negatives stay on the same side. So my red is positive and I just marked it over here before I close that all up. So let's bring it inside and see if we made it work. And surprisingly, it worked on the first try. I'm not going to show it to you guys just yet because I want to show this as part of the big reveal at the end because it does have that huge wow factor. But trust me, it worked. So the last part for us that I want to do on this build, we've used so many elements in here. The epoxy, the little fishies, the LED light. I also want to throw in some bow ties. There is a big crack that's going through here and I want to reinforce it with these bow ties, and that's what they're for. Also, it's a really cool touch, I think, and to add that, it just has that finesse look. So we're going to add a bunch of them, actually. So 6 bow ties, 2 on this crack, 2 on this crack, and then 2 on that one. And there is a kit that I bought in order to do this. So it kind of looks like this. You put it over, you router it out, and then the bow tie should fit right into it, and you just glue it in. And then you just sand them off, and then it should have a really, really nice touch to it. So this is going to be the last part, and then we're just going to stain this entire thing and actually install it. So when it comes to bow ties, To me, the easiest way to do it was with a jig like this, and you can find these on Amazon. They're sold all over. I think this one was like 40 bucks, which comes with this mold, and it came with like 10 of these bow ties, and these are walnut bow ties. And the reason I went with this one is because of these corners, how they're rounded, which means that I can achieve that roundness with just a simple router. Otherwise, there's some that have like square or like a sharp pointy edges, and that would involve a chisel, nice sharp chisel, you having to carve that out, and which becomes way harder. So for us, we're going to be just using this. I have some tape on the back here. I'm going to add tape right over where it's basically going to go, meaning on the sides, so then we can hot glue this mold to the ground, to the surface, and then just route it out. Then we got some Gorilla wood glue here, and we'll be able to wood glue that in place, wait for it to cure up, sand it off.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best.
We've got all of our bow ties routed out, and you can see that I don't think I had the right bit for that router, because towards the end here it's like very, very tight. But then once we get towards the end here, some of these corners are getting more opened up and whatnot. And I think it's just because this stuff is not made out of metal. It is getting worn out a little bit. And if I was to do anything differently, I'd try to find one that's maybe made out of metal. I haven't seen those out there though. But nevertheless, I do think this is going to work out just fine. We're going to put a bunch of glue around that is going to ooze out. It's going to fill everything in really, really nicely. And it's going to reinforce that crack here. Anyway, so now we're going to use our Gorilla glue, the wood glue, and a little brush everything on, pound it in there, and kind of finish this up.
So as I'm sitting here and editing this video, I just had a aha moment. What I should have done is I could have recessed those bow ties way deeper by removing the mold and then just using the hole as the guide to plunge deeper, because the mold itself didn't allow for me to go much deeper because I just couldn't reach with the blade, with the bit. But I could have just used the hole that was already there. That's all right, we learn. So now we sanded everything, and look how sick that looks.
So we were able to sand down our bow ties. I'm really happy how that turned out. I think it adds that little wow factor when people walk in. This is going to be one of the first things people see when they walk into our house. So I wanted to make sure that it has a little bit of that finesse. So now the only thing that is left for us to do is to stain it. And we are using our Rubio Monocoat for this. So it's a really nice stain. It has some sealer built into it as well, so it will make sure that it protects it just as much as it stains it. So we're not going to put any poly over this or anything like that. This is kind of what it looks like, and we are going for that pure color, which will just get the color of the grain out. So let's stain this. I'm probably gonna stain one side, the sides, and then do the bottom at some point later today, because you do want to make sure that you're staining the entire piece. So let's get to staining.
And I think that the pain that's deep inside is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top. I don't care what's in my way, I swear I'm never gonna stop. I could fall flat on my face and I swear I will get back up, cause I don't deserve a thing and the road ahead is tough. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing. Won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
So the bench is ready, and here's what it looks like. It's all cured up now. Here's what the fishies look like in there. Really, really happy how that turned out. We do have our LED underneath there as well. Happy how that turned out. And overall, this was the first time we did it. There's definitely things that I would do differently with like the epoxy pour. I think I just got to get the deep pour epoxy versus the stuff that I was using. Love how we did the bow ties. I think I know a way to make them sink in a little bit deeper to have a little bit stronger hold on that crack itself. But this is why we do this stuff, because we're learning, and the next time we can do something better. Happy how this turned out. It fits in really well with the rest of our mudroom built in. If you guys do want to see how we built the rest of all this stuff, press the link right here and then you'll see the entire video. Thanks for watching. See you next one.